we have fraud detection happening, we have compliance increasingly getting automated. So yes, a lot of entry-level roles are getting automated, and that's the reality of it because that's what large industry customers are telling us. But what is the larger truth when it comes to India, right? The larger truth is millions of Indians are still outside formal credit. And that is the problem that we need to say, how can we look? If AI is used to just cut costs in urban banks, well, we reduce jobs. That's a no-brainer. But if AI is used to lower the cost of serving rural India, well, we create borrowers, we create entrepreneurs, we create business people. The question is not whether AI reduces headcount. I mean, that's given. I think the question is whether, especially in the financial sector, it helps to increase access, right? So that's the point. Do we optimize balance sheets, or do we expand the financial system? I think those are aspects we need to keep in mind. Now let's take manufacturing and logistics. All of us know that a whole lot of robotics, etc., is taking place. Obviously, AI is going to turbocharge logistics and manufacturing. But again, are we looking at reduction of jobs over there? Absolutely not. If there is anything, I think government of India is focusing on increasing manufacturing as a space, right? So we know that's for given. That's what's going to happen as well. What are we talking about then when it comes to manufacturing? I think what we're really talking about is, are the population going to be involved in low productivity jobs in manufacturing or high productivity jobs? And I think in the manufacturing and logistics space, that's how it's going to work out. I've given two other examples and then we'll move on. One is retail. All of us have experienced different platforms. There are 12 million Kirana shops across the country. Are we thinking in terms of centralizing a whole lot of power in terms of only platforms? Or are we can see that what is that we can do at a local Kirana shop which will help them reduce wastage, improve pricing, and manage their inventory, right? I think those are aspects. Healthcare is another significant aspect, but I'll move on as to what we want to do. So the question is very simple. Like I said, AI, really needs to be a force multiplier. It depends on, how leadership is kind of really thinking about it. Okay. So the central insight is very simple. AI does not necessarily eliminate work. It reallocates value. So I want all of you to kind of think through, in that aspects, right? It destroys obviously routine tasks, etc., and all that, but it increases the value of judgment. Okay. So it comes to, therefore, let me just move to the next slide. Does AI take jobs, or will it end up concentrating opportunity? And I make the case of a middle path in all of this, right? So obviously, without doubt, as we speak, if AI serves only top 10%, we have a challenge. But if AI reaches the warehouse worker in Lucknow, the nurse in Coimbatore, or maybe the salesperson in Jaipur, then productivity rises for the nation. So the real debate, like I said, is will AI end up concentrating opportunity, or will India be able to use it as a democratic fashion, right? Now, let us confront a much more harder reality. Many entry-level jobs are under strain. There's no questions on that. There are forecasts of workforce reduction in AI-exposed sectors. This matters deeply for us because many first-time jobs really end up shaping the trajectory of many careers, right? So if AI is going to compress the bottom of the white-collar ladder, we must build new ladders, right? And what does that look like? So this really requires action on three fronts, and some of this might be relevant to you. First is, as a nation, skills must become dynamic, right? Not static. And what do you mean by that? And that's what is written. No longer credentialing, as we have noted in the past, or degree, is a lifetime warranty of employment. So I think that's the one major shift which is taking place. Skills now have to be modular, stackable, continuously refreshed. Individuals are going to have multiple careers as compared to what used to happen in the previous generation. Second thing is, I think we need to significantly shift from what we say job-centric thinking to task-centric thinking. When AI is going to automate routines, I think what it's going to leave behind is a vacuum that only a human spirit can fill. And what do I mean by that? I think when muscle and cognition, as we spoke about, are handled by machines, what remains? A lot of what we used to call in the past soft skills, empathy, judgment, creativity. I think some of those aspects are now going to come into fore in a much bigger banner than what we imagine it to be, right? So these are not just soft skills. What we are going to be able to do as we move into the future is that our attempt is not going to be saying, let's create AI-proof jobs, but we will end up as a society, as a nation, of having AI augmented humans, right? People who know the skills of how to kind of work along with AI. The third most important thing amongst many things is we must build institutional bridges. I don't think so it is left only to corporate or industry to be able to do that between policy, platform, and employers. I think we are extremely lucky. Of course, amongst many things, first is policy intent must meet market data. Skills program must be aligned with real-time hiring signals. Employers, of course, like us, have to communicate evolving skill requirements quickly. We are lucky as a nation. We have many things going right for us. We have the right, digital public infrastructure, which is really the envy of the world. We have scale. We have linguistic, diversity, which of course is going to force innovation when it comes to inclusive AI. If AI systems can work with our kind of inclusive diversity and socio-economic complexity, it pretty much can work, anywhere in the world. And I'm going to give you a few examples as to how that is happening. But let me also, address the fear directly of what it is. I think historical evidence does suggest that while specific sectors face sharp contraction, overall, employment adjusts over time, right? The transition can be painful, and I think it will be painful depending on the sector, but it's rarely smooth. But economies that kind of position themselves, and that's why I gave the Swiss example, towards higher value work would thrive. The real danger, therefore, in my view, is not automation or AI. I think the real danger is stagnation. If we resist AI, then I think productivity will fall. You're going to fall behind, everybody else. If you're going to fall behind everybody else, then wages are going to come down. Wages are going to come down. Then inequality is going to rise, right? So this is inevitable, in one sense. So our choice is not between AI or not AI. I think a choice really is between either shaping AI or being shaped by AI. And I think that's, singularly going to be the most important thing we need to look at. Therefore, maybe a bit of solutioning, right? So what does shaping AI mean in the Indian context? One, it means building AI systems that augment frontline workers. So I think, that's amongst many things which individuals first time in history have taken upon themselves. It also means, and this is really important to me, ensuring that rural youth have the same AI access as urban graduates. And I'll come to it as to how, we are seeing some of this play out. And third, of course, it means making vernacular AI interfaces, because India is obviously diverse, making it the norm and not the exception, right? Most importantly, outside of all this, I think it means recognizing that human skills would become more valuable, not less, as I move ahead. So let me now provide you with practical examples of how, my industry, which is HR and recruitment industry, which I represent, is getting transformed. As Dr. Dhania said, I've been the CEO of a staffing company and now a jobs marketplace, so I have a bit of a frontline view as to jobs, especially entry-level jobs, right? So what's happening in the labor market? So, we have a jobs marketplace, so there are about 6 crore candidates who are registered at any point in time in my database. Last full year, there are about 7 lakh jobs which were posted. The number of job applications is what each individual kind of goes posts. So there were 9 crore applications for 7 lakh jobs, right? So roughly about 125 to 150, 200, job applications per individual. That is not interesting. That's, for India scale, that's normal. But I think what's more important thing which is happening is that about 50 to 60% of those jobs were applied in tier 2, tier 3 cities. And fundamentally, more important than that and more interesting is the kind of jobs that is getting posted. Let me give you an example. 3 years ago, AI trainer was a non-existent job. Today, it's one of the fastest growing jobs on my portal, right? Some of you might know it from another language. It's called data eval business. But in colloquial term, it's an AI trainer, right? Where is it happening? Hiring from tier 2 cities. It pays, obviously, it's kind of a gig model, pays roughly 20 to 40,000 rupees a month. Eligibility is literally not even a graduate, right? So labor market transformation is happening. It's happening, it's live, right? Okay, what are employers signaling? Amongst many things, again, if you are in a jobs market, this should be important. I think 3 clear things. One is prompt literacy. All of you know it. Prompt engineering is really the one thing. Not coding, conversational precision, knowing how to instruct AI systems effectively, right? Second is, AI augmented, problem solving. Use AI as a research assistant, not an answer, right? Just don't go because all of us know it hallucinates, gives all kinds of crazy answers. Evaluate outputs critically, knowing when AI adds value, when it introduces risk. resume at all. So what does AI do? AI today at scale is able to completely screen it. I think those are some of the things which is going to take place, right? The other aspect, I want to put across saying how some of these things in real time is taking place. One, at today, one of the important aspects in India is how can AI, like I spoke about, going to be a democratic equalizer, right? Fundamentally, all of you would see in some corner of the other country, English-speaking classes, interview coaching classes, at a higher end finishing school classes, and so on and so forth. Some of these range from 15, 20,000 to literally lakhs of rupees, right? Resume writing services, for example, you go to websites anywhere between 1,000 rupees to several thousand rupees less. Less than 5% of our workforce can afford that. So the opportunity is just not determined by skill, it is determined by presentation as well. But quickly, we do a whole lot of things at scale. Today, the AI prep can literally be able to interview 100% of all candidates, being able to update their profiles and really be able to go to the next level of being able to, call out all individuals, right? So that's among things that, AI is really able to do. I think, let me end with a very simple proposition. The future of work in India will not be decided by algorithms alone. It will be decided by institutions, by leadership, and our willingness to invest in people. AI is definitely a powerful tool, no doubt, but human capital remains India's biggest asset. If we combine AI with India's demographic dividend, entrepreneurial energy, and policy firmness, we can transform anxiety into advantage. The future of work is not something that happens to us. I think it's something we build. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shri Karthik Narayanji, and for this very insightful session from the industry side. So now Ajay sir is with us, and I kindly request Ajay sir to do the inaugural address.
Thank you, Karthik. It was a wonderful note or address by you, and some of the examples were real good, and it kind of gives or makes us confident that there is a promise in AI. While transformation is really difficult whenever some disruptive technology come, but the promise which you have shown that yes, there is an opportunity, and with right kind of leadership, right kind of interventions, we can definitely avail those opportunities. So building on that, so Karthik presented one side of the, I would say, the complete universe, that the private sector and the HR part of it. So I will be presenting more from the government perspective, of our ministry's perspective. I am Ajoy Sharma, Additional Secretary and Director General Employment in the Ministry of Labor and Employment. Distinguished panelists, esteemed guests, I am really privileged to be here addressing all of you on this Address India AI Impact Summit. I don't have to tell about how AI is progressing, how is it transforming. I will directly go to the main point which I want to kind of share with you. Yes, we are at a crossroads, or we are at the defining moment in economic history, where AI is not simply a technological wave. It's a kind of extra force which is actually, as you said rightly, reshaping our production systems, service delivery, and labor markets. And not only those, but governance frameworks as well, and all across the world, not in India itself. For a country like India, where, as you rightly said, Karthik, 65% of our workforce or our population is below 35, and median age is 29, and our nation is banking on this youth for this Viksit Bharat 2047. Here the question is not whether AI will, what will it do? Real question is, will we be able to use AI to expand opportunities rather than restricting it? So this is the real question which we need to answer, or which the ministry or the whole of the government is kind of working on. So if you look at our official data source, which is your periodic labor force survey and the claims data, it shows that unemployment rate is decreasing consistently. Similarly, worker WPR as well as the labor force participation rates are going upwards. Despite the technology and AI, it means the jobs are growing. It means that there is some transformation of job. The evidence shows that. This is not a theory. Till now we were saying that we have seen the age in 2K, or when the computers came, everyone was scared that the jobs will go. Similarly, many of us would second me that in 1980s, when these ATMs came, right, everyone was thinking that the jobs of these bank tellers will go. Did they go? No. In fact, because of the cheaper branches or cheaper operation in the branches, your jobs or your number of branches increased, your service delivery improved, and at the end of the day, the number of jobs in the banking industry increased like a lot. But there was a transition from simple that kind of a cash handler's job. Now there's more like relationship managers or advisors, which we are with whom we are interacting almost on daily basis. Every one of us getting call from our relationship manager or advisor about our bank accounts or investment strategies and all. So what I'm saying is the data or evidence, it's not only a theory, but the evidence is showing that the jobs are actually increasing, unemployment rate is going down, despite the AI and the technology being there in existence. Yes, this is the beginning of it, but at the same time, we don't have to be fearful of it, or we should not be scared of it. What we need to, I'm sorry. So when I talk about the government, so we feel that when it comes to employability, then the AI can kind of address, or I can say can strengthen three pillars of our employment architecture, and in those pillars, the government or the ministry has started using AI to see that the AI improves the opportunities. For example, first pillar, if I talk about, is job matching. Apna is a wonderful private platform matching job seekers with the jobs. The numbers Karthik had spoken about, these are real amazing numbers. So similarly, there is a national career service platform which the ministry is running since 2014, and it's a kind of a platform which is connected to Apna, Monstra, not only those but with the government system as well, Consync system. It's a very comprehensive kind of platform, and here we have already started using AI systems. Karthik was talking about the resumes. So if you go to different sites, the cost of making those resumes is quite high. Not even 5%. Am I right? Not even 5% of the total job seekers are able to kind of even think about those services. Right now, you can go to the NCS platform, you can put your basic details, and AI would give you the resume. But again, the question is, it is a kind of a recommendatory. You have to kind of again improvise it as per your needs and everything, because there can be some kind of hallucination. He can when you are talking about it, when you are applying for some managerial positions, you may not be having that managerial experience, but hallucination will make you feel as if you have done this managerial kind of thing in n number of enterprises. So one has to be cautious about it, but at the same time, what I'm telling is these kind of clues have already started penetrating our government ecosystems. If you talk about CV building, and second and very important thing was we are very diverse. So 22 official languages, so many dialects. So it has to be multilingual, and obviously a carpenter cannot go to any site and build his own CV and post it there. With a simple feature phone, he should be able to post his desire that I want job of carpenter at such and such places, and this is why work experience he doesn't have to be so formal. He can simply say that I have worked at this and this position and have made furniture or dining table or beds or that kind of thing, and we should be able to post. And right now, while I am kind of speaking to you, my team is working on that system, and the beta version they are kind of testing in maybe couple of weeks. It should be out. And I should tell you that this NCS, National Career Service Platform, because it is kind of combining many platforms, eShram platform, Apna, Mons, and this kind of thing. So we have approximately 3.64 crore job seekers who have registered on it. Until now, in last 10 years, more than 6.43 crore vacancies have come on this platform. So it's a very, I would say, very strong platform, which where using AI we are trying that how can we provide more opportunities to our youth. Second thing, when it comes to employability, is your definitely your skilling or reskilling kind of stuff, which has to be taken care of. Now, second thing with NCS platform, which is I would say unique thing which we are doing is EPFO. All of you know, it's an organization where it has all data about all your formal workforce, wage data, and kind of job. So we are integrating this NCS platform, this EPFO system. Now imagine with more than 28 lakh organization and 34 crore EPFO members, if NCS connected, how well we can understand that what is going on in the job market, and almost on real-time basis, as the establishments have to fill all their data monthly. So how are the jobs transitioning, what kind of jobs are happening, where are happening, which kind of establishment it is happening. So again, we are kind of riding on this AI wave and would kind of analyze it. Again, time frame is, again, all time frames are 4 to 6 weeks. When we are talking about AI, it cannot be 4 to 6 months. It has to be kind of compressed to weeks. So I just wanted to tell you that the second pillar which we are talking or which we are working on is this skill kind of thing. Yes, definitely there are different organizations, different establishments, different entrepreneurs who have designed different courses depending on the needs of the market. But these entrepreneurs also need to know what is actually there in demand on real-time basis. Yes, here say we listen, today we listened to Karthik. He said that there is one AI trainer is one job which is kind of coming up in the market. So maybe there may be entrepreneurs designing courses around it. But think of a situation where on real-time basis we are getting this information that what kind of skilling is in demand, and definitely it opens it opens for different entrepreneurs to kind of work on it and come out with these courses. And third thing which I feel that AI can strengthen in this overall employment architecture is inclusion, which you also spoke, Karthik. This is very, very important. We are very diverse. So linguistically, again, English-speaking people with English kind of a language platform, they would be kind of gaining it. But others who are not able to, who are not comfortable with English, they will be at disadvantage, and this gap will rise. So, but there is an opportunity with Bhashini and other kind of system who can kind of on real-time basis can do multilingual thing. It becomes like easier. However, we need to be mindful of it. At the same time, we also need to see that our AI systems are not biased. So it is for entrepreneurs as well. So it should be like, it should not bias against uh, people coming from rural background, maybe the women who have kind of because of maternity went out of job and coming back, should not bias against that. So we need to kind of need to build that kind of system. So again, it is a double-edged sword. So AI can exclude that and may kind of, if we are conscious, can actually consciously include those kind of populations as well. Similarly, again, the platform, eSham platform, you might have heard, more than 31 crore unorganized workers are registered there. Now, this is because many of you are entrepreneurs here. I would like to share with you that very soon we are going to open it, this data set, to the private players who can kind of use this data set and kind of come out with their own application, which help this 31 crore people to match their requirement or their desire with the opportunities available in the market. Then I would say that if I talk about the government, it's not a single ministry is working in a silo, but it's whole of the government approach. So on daily basis, you may not be able to get that kind of insight, but being in the government, I know that our Honorable Prime Minister is making sure that every minister, every ministry is working together, and it has to be whole of the government approach to ensure that AI creates opportunities, and we actually we are not kind of simply following it, but we are leaders in this transformation. For that matter, MITI has come up with many courses. Future Skills Prime, more than 3.2 lakh people have already been trained, and the AI and big data. Similarly, we are integrating these AI courses in our PMKVY, which is being run by the Skill Development Department. Yuva AI, again, the target which we have kept, the Ministry of IT has kept, is around 1 crore youth to be AI literate. So these are something. Similarly, NCS is also kind of tying up with different partners. For example, very recently, Mr. Nadella was here, and we kind of enter into an MOU with Microsoft, where more than 15,000 partners would put their vacancies on NCS. Not only that, but they have also agreed to put AI courses on NCS portal. So and again, this National Career Service or NCS portal is connected with different government portals like SED or MITI's portals. So anybody entering into any government system would be able to access these courses, even if he is not directly coming to the NCS system. So apart from that, this was all about technology, but at the same time, I said that government is kind of having this follow the government approach. So we are this employment linked incentive scheme, Pradhan Mantri Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana, is again it kind of helps the demand side. It incentivizes job creation. So any industry which creates additional employment for next 2 years, incentives will be provided to them, and it is for manufacturing. It is almost 1,44,000 up to 1,44,000 of incentive in 4 years. For other industries, it can be 72,000 rupees per additional employment. So, so this was about our government response. Now, when we talk about any initiative or anything which we are doing, then as a whole, maybe private sector, public sector, we need to have some kind of a metrics on which we should evaluate ourselves. I feel that some of the things I have written down, how would I judge this AI adoption by major outcomes? One is reduce time to match for job seekers and employers. So that friction goes away, and then this matching has to be very smooth. So we need to see that what was the time earlier, even for Apna, I would request that you can have your internal metrics where you can say that earlier it was taking 7 days, now it has gone down to 24 hours. Second, again, every platform, whether it's NCS or Apna, we are providing career counseling and all. But at the end of the day, this career counseling or assessment is how it is converting to the opportunity. That is very, very important to it. So that will be another. Third thing I would say is visibility of, I was saying that yes, we would use EPFO data and everything to understand that what is the skill gap, but in real time, whether everyone is able to do it and how fast we are able to do that, that would be another criteria. And fourth, which I would say, inclusion, for me it is closest to my heart, and we should see that across regions, across genders, across sectors, how are we able to kind of bridge that gap. So those are few things which I would say that both private and public sectors should keep in mind while kind of devising different solutions for improving employability. Last but not the least, I would end this thing, my address with this thing. Technology must serve human potential, and human potential must define our technological future. That was my concluding thought and concluding line. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. As you rightly said that the core question is not will AI eliminate a job, and it is transferring job. Thanks a lot, sir. So now I request Dr. Madhuri ji for delivering the, talking about Kusum Agarwal ji for delivering the session, and that's on, especially she's looking at how educational system is connecting with AI. Thank you.
So after listening to Sir Ajay sir and Karthik's thought, so my job is a little bit ahead of, because they are talking about the graduates and the people, those who are available for the jobs. My job is to how to prepare the students for these jobs. So good afternoon, August panelists and the gatherings here. It is a great opportunity to speak from the academia point of view. So because I'm a teacher, fundamentally I'm a teacher, I would like to be in a simple terms. So basically the academia perspective from the AI key sites, how it is going to be handled and how students need to be prepared for this. So there are 4 key questions, and once these questions are being answered, I think most of the job will be done. So first of all, what need to be taught? So what kind of programs those are relevant in today's time? What kind of courses that are relevant need to be taught under those programs need to be offered? Because until and unless we have the right offerings that to be made to the aspiring students and ultimately the people, those who are coming for the jobs, I think this problem will not be resolved. So right kind of programs, or the availability of right kind of programs into the market, right kind of courses. So I just look at it when we design our curriculum. So we just see that we need to produce T-shaped professionals. So what we mean by the T-shaped professionals, that means giving the breadth of the area, or giving the decent breadth of the area where the student need to perform in the coming time, and after that at least one depth, or giving depth in one specific skill. So this is when we are arranging our curriculum, we are keeping these things in our mind. So the curriculum, when we are building it in the first 2 years, we are totally focusing upon the breadth, and now with the breadth we are seeing that the curriculum and the kind of skills those are required in the market, they are also changing at very rapid pace. The shell life of the technology has reduced like anything. So the things which we have been taught at our times might not be relevant in today's time. But again, it's an opportunity. Again, it's an opportunity where curriculum need to be revised, not in once in 4 years or so. I think it needs to be revised in every year, or like in every 6 months. The multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary in this area where major of the skills or major of the jobs would be available in the coming time. So even the person having knowledge of medicine might not be very successful. He need to have the required technology, how to implement the latest advances in the medicines by the help of technology would be required, and the people, those who have that kind of skill, will be more employed in the market. So and along with this, the key humanly skills, I would name it as, because we are talking about artificial intelligence, so what are the humanly skills? So humanly skills are problem solving ability, critical thinking, empathy, communications. So a lot of focus needs to be built upon these when we are arranging our curriculums. So on the side of curriculum, these are the things which need to be taken care by the academicians at their institutes just to become relevant in the market. Second question, key question is, who will be teaching these? Where we will be teaching these? So where is basically the infrastructure? So being a leader of a university, if we are just looking upon that the labs which were built at 5 years ago or 7 years ago might not be relevant in today's time. So investing in the right kind of infrastructure that can give the education to the students, imparting the contemporary and the modern skills so that they becomes employable in the market. So that is something which needs to be decided by the leaders in the university, that where the investments need to be made, in which type of infrastructure need to be built at the university so that it can serve to the right kind of skills, or while imparting the right kind of skills to the students. Now coming back, who will teach? So who will teach is of course the faculty members. So faculty members need to be updated by the regular interventions of the development programs, sending them for the sabbaticals just to learn something. And because until and unless the faculty is upgraded, I think the days are gone when the faculty got the PhD degree 5 years ago might not be relevant in today's time. So if faculty need to attend the students in the class, they need to be ahead of them. So until and unless they are ahead, they won't be heard into the class. So this is the third key questions. Now comes to the innovative pedagogy. So how the students need to be engaged. So every teacher, when we see they are facing challenges inside the class, how to engage these Gen Zs. So we are using the term Gen Z, they do not listen to the others. They have very reduced attention span. So how to cater to them? So here I would like to say, AI dard bhi hai, AI dawa bhi hai. So here you can use this AI for providing the customized teaching learning to your students. I have been using a very amazing tool which can give my material to my students in 7 different formats. Like few students, they are good by listening. Few students, they are good by seeing the videos. Few students, they are good with the discussions. They need to be engaged in some podcast. So there are AI tools available in the market which can just curate your content based upon your learners' needs. So these learners' needs, diversified needs of the learners can be catered by the AI tools, taking their leverage into the academia and the higher education specifically. Now, when we are talking about the skill gaps, so skill gaps is again a kind of terminology. So the skill which I have seen 6 months before might not be relevant in today's time. So again, this gap is changing. So just to keep a close eye, what is happening, how it's happening, and how this can be delivered to my students. So that should be a kind of, so earlier the teaching job was the relaxed kind of jobs. People, now I think this is quite engaging, and on everyday basis, if you want to become a good teacher, good leader in the education market, you need, I should not say this is a market, education is a profession, it is a noble profession which gives the feed to all the employments. So basically here is a kind of challenge. So the educator need to update themselves on the regular basis, that what are the key things, what are the key educational tools available, and how their learners can be benefited out of it. So that was my fourth key questions. So before leaving this, the last was the impact assessment. So when you are doing everything, what is the impact of it? So whether you have made change in the curriculum, or you have made change in the pedagogy, or you have made change in some kind of, or you have invested into some kind of infrastructure, or you have invested into some kind of faculty development, the impact assessment is inevitable. So impact needs to be assessed for all these things, and then only the future calls should be taken. So before leaving this, my key takeaways for this session is alignment of the entire higher education systems towards the humanly skills. So humanly skills cannot be replaced in any of the period of time. So we need to focus upon that how humanly skills can be incorporated not only into the curriculum but also into the assessment, because student, they attend assessments and they prepare themselves from the assessment point of view. So if we are assessing the students on their critical thinking, on their empathy, on their problem solving abilities, definitely students will be addressing these skills while they will be learning. Adaptation of market changes and quick incorporation of industry demanded skills into the curriculum without waiting that next cycle will come and then only I will be changing my curriculum. Quick upgradation of academic infrastructure that includes both physical infrastructure and the faculty, and creation of a valid assessment framework specifically for the students that can be interested by the industry also. So here is a big gap when we are talking that the students, those who are already been assessed inside the higher educational institutes, they are assessed again before taking into the jobs. So having the correct kind of assessment framework, investing in those frameworks would be required. So last but not the least, I would leave this stage by saying only one statement: do not fear of AI, just embrace AI. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And there are lot more things as discussed. And impact assessment is something which we have to think of in all the universities. So thanks a lot. And we don't have much time, so let me just conclude the session and acknowledging the powerful reflections, powerful perspectives shared here, especially starting with Ajoy Sharma sir, and he has already talked about many aspects of the Government of India, especially Ministry of Labour and Employment, and his reflections on this integration of this digital labour market information system. It is showing the shifting from reactive employment governance to a predictive and data-driven employment policy. Thank you so much, sir, for giving these aspects here. And also Shri Kartik Narayan, and he has brought the industrial lens into our discussion, and it was highlighting that the private sector is not merely adapting to AI, and it is building it. And also Dr. Kusumchi for discussing about, as she said correctly, that curriculum design, then lifelong learning pathways, and also this industry integrated pedagogy are no longer optional. Actually, they are structural necessities. So once again, my sincere gratitude to each one of you for delivering this session and taking your time here from the busy schedule, and also the organizers of this AI Summit. Thank you. Thanks a lot, and we will end here. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for bearing with all the confusion outside and waiting for this event. So we are at the AI Impact Summit, and one of the questions that we want to discuss in the panel today is that how do you actually assess the impact of AI very quantitatively, qualitatively? What does the nuts and bolts of that look like? So today on this panel we have 5 stellar speakers. We have 2 folks who are going to discuss more on the theory of like what does evaluation in AI mean, and then we have 3 representatives, leaders from nonprofit organizations who are going to talk about their AI applications and how they've thought of evaluation there. I'm going to restrict the time I do on introductions just so that they have more time. The way this will work is that each speaker will come to the podium, speak for about 8 to 10 minutes, including question and answer. So you can ask your questions for each speaker right after their comments, right? And each speaker gets about 10 minutes, and that's how we'll complete the 50 minutes. I do request all of you to be very quiet while you are here, just because the audio, if you speak, it's going to disrupt the speakers. With that, I'm going to invite our first speaker, who's Edmund Corley from Agency Fund. Edmund, over to you.
Morning, everybody. So today I want to talk about an evaluation framework that we've come up with at the Agency Fund. We call it the 4-level evaluation framework for now. So over the past year, we ran an accelerator where we invested $4 million into 8 nonprofit NGOs to build and scale AI pilots. And out of this, we come out with a framework for how to approach AI evaluation. So I want to talk through that today. But first, maybe a bit of a high level. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So maybe a bit of how we got here. So some of you might recognize the technologies in this rough timeline, but the idea is that with generative AI, the tools are changing and improving so rapidly, and with increased capability comes increased risk. In the past, we used to talk about like, hey, now people can figure out how to make a biohazard tool or a bomb like with ChatGPT. The risk is even higher now and will be higher in the future. So this is part of the reason why investing in valuations to make sure your AI intervention or product is doing what it's supposed to do is more important than ever. So maybe some of you saw this article last year that MIT published, where at the time, June 2025, 95% of AI pilots in the enterprise were failing. Like only 5% were making its way to successful deployment and production. And when you dig in the paper, it wasn't the capabilities of the models itself, but it was the integration of these models into enterprise workflows. There was just a major friction there. And in our accelerator, we identified certain pain points as well. It ranged from things like intent classification, data collection, but the major pain point was around evaluation, like identifying what to measure and how to measure it. And so out of that, we came up with this framework. It's a 4-level framework, and you can think of it this way. At the first level, we're basically asking, does the AI produce safe and accurate responses? So all the metrics and evaluation techniques under this step, mainly focus on the AI model, but we can call it the AI product, right? Because it's not just the LLM in the middle; it's everything you put around the LLM, the architecture around it. Then level 2 is kind of how does the product facilitate meaningful user interactions? Do people find enough value in the product to keep coming back to it over and over again? And then level 3, we start to get at these, how does the product change users' thoughts, feelings, or behaviors about themselves? And then, finally, as the final stamp on whether your AI investment is working, does people using your product improve human welfare? I'm not gonna get into this slide too much, but maybe from the previous slide, you might interpret that we're saying like, hey, reach perfection in level 1 before you move to level 2, and so forth. But really, it's more complicated. There are different types of people expertise that are involved at each level. For example, level 1 might involve more AI engineers, ML engineers, whereas level 2 involve product managers, and so on. But the whole idea is that as you progress through the levels, you're building successive bits of confidence all the way up until the impact evaluation, the big, bad, expensive RCT. And yeah, here's an example of the organizing questions and some early stats for Digital Green, CTOs in the room here. And yeah, why this framework? You can imagine you don't go with this framework, and we've seen orgs take this path. And you go all the way up until an impact evaluation and get a no result, or you run a survey and NPS score and the result is low. The whole idea is that instead of getting to those more expensive types of evaluation and getting a result that you don't want, you invest in the earlier levels successively, such that you before you even get to level 3 or level 4, you've built enough confidence, like, yeah, this is gonna work. And yeah, just to repeat what I said earlier, we're not saying this. We're not saying like progress linearly. The whole idea is that this is cyclical. And to do each level at high fidelity, cost is very expensive and time consuming. So we definitely promote the concept of a minimal evaluation, that in each of the levels, there's bare minimum that you can do that gets things working before you move on to the next level. But you continue to invest in all the levels. And yeah, here's a MV checklist we have for each level. We can get it into the more another time. And yeah, I want to close on this. That what we're proposing is not a linear process, but a phased evaluation framework where you get successive bits of confidence before you move on to the impact evaluation. Great. Yeah. Any questions? Right there.
Hi, my name is Gayatri. I'm at a company called Karya that does a lot of code evaluation projects. I'm very excited about evaluation. But I think a lot of people who are building models are mostly keen to build better, deploy, get more people to use their models. So what's the forcing function to get folks to actually, do these evaluations?
Yeah,
Maybe the
yeah.
government or...
Yeah, because we've seen like it can be easy to skip, right? Because once you get something working, you're just like, hey, let's just put it out in production, basically. So one, I would say the context you're working in, that matters for different contexts. For example, if you're working in a health context where people are relying on your chatbot for factual information about what prescriptions to take, what maternal health practices to do, then the onus comes from you. Like the onus comes from the org to want to make sure that AI bot is outputting these answers. But it's also like a form of risk management. Regardless of what industry you're in, it's a form of risk management that you don't want to get to a point where your chatbot is giving wrong answers or harmful answers in production. That's gonna blow up in your face a lot. So investing in this kind of like phased offline evaluation can help de-risk an outcome like that. Any other questions?
Hi, I'm from an organization called Khushi Baby. We work in health and we work with Microsoft for the chatbots. Now, I'm the evaluation lead. So one of the biggest challenge of doing evaluation in spaces like health and AI is the data security
Yeah.
and the data security frameworks which you will use, because you don't know what consent you are taking from the client or the beneficiary, and can be used for research. So how
Yeah.
do you kind of navigate that in your framework?
Yeah, definitely good point. So one thing to think about is scrubbing PI. So if you're sitting on some customer data, like beneficiary data, just passing it through a process where you scrub it of all people's names and locations. So there's some models that help with that, PI scrubbing models. So that's one thing you can do to de-risk, like messing with people's data. Another thing is like if you're just getting started, using synthetically generated data. Imagine like you're working on like a health chatbot or something. Your conversations follow certain themes. Like people are asking about certain types of questions, so you could model that and then use that to generate synthetic QA pairs, so that you're not like risking exposing user data in the early version of evaluation. But PI scrubbing is definitely the way to go if you can get it to work for your language, because these models tend to work the best in English and then less so in others.
So you've given it as so I'm Pranjal, founder of Code Deep AI. You've given it as phased, steps like initially model evaluation and everything. Like by the time you reach the last impact evaluation or user evaluation, model would have changed, right? So how do you ensure that cyclic improvement is happening?
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and you're right. I won't couch the fact that the impact evaluation involves these RCTs, which take a lot of time and money. But the whole idea is that I'm not saying like do level 1 to 3 before you start thinking about impact evaluation. All these can happen at the same time, because they involve an overlapping like group of people. So yeah, we're definitely not saying the case that like reach perfection and get to impact evaluation. But the impact evaluation is the RCT is a snapshot in time of like the system that you're testing, and it's true. Like the models will get better and they will change and things like that. But something I've heard about which was really super helpful is like having an optimistic mindset. Designing both for the current capabilities of these models, but also the future capabilities. Having a growth mindset that they will get better. Like how can we organize our program such that we can take advantage of that?
I'll now invite Barish from Tattle to talk about human evaluation.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm Barish, Research Development and Grant Specialist at Tattle Civic Technologies, and I'll be talking to you a little bit about how to do human evaluations of large language models. So in the next 10 minutes, I'll go over what human evaluations are in comparison to automated evaluations, one way to do them that Tattle has been employing. We'll give you a few good markers for setting up a successful evaluation for your organization. And then we'll leave you with a little checklist for what you can do to scale up human evaluations over time. So as the name suggests, human evaluation involves human researchers and domain experts evaluating LLM responses to determine accuracy and develop some evaluation criteria. In comparison, automated evaluation is when you use advanced LLM models like Cloud or GPT to evaluate your LLM based on predefined criteria. And so, granted, automated evaluation then gives you very high speeds, very quick scalability at low cost. So why must we make a case for human evaluations? Human researchers can give you a lot of nuance while analyzing data, especially coming from multicultural contexts. Human research can also adapt to multilingual contexts, and they can pivot their research and evaluation when it comes to edge cases that are emerging from your data, right? So what is one way that you can actually set up a human evaluation for your organization? So we're going to give you a 4-step method that Tattle has used, right? So we worked with 3 organizations that had chatbots that they were piloting in their communities. 2 of these were in the educational domain and 1 was in healthcare. And we started with collecting a sample, and we collected the sample manually, which is that we went through the data of input-output pairs and picked up periodic pieces of data, right? So for one sample, we had about 2.5% of data. For another, we had about 1.4% of data. Something we recommend here is that you can make your sample representative by automating this process, right? You can use a Python script to generate a truly random data set, or you can also employ more than one researcher to look at this data set and basically pick out parts from different parts of the data set, right, to make sure that you're getting a kind of wider, richer sample. Now after that, we sat down to annotate, and the approach we took is called the grounded approach from social theory, which is that instead of using a predefined taxonomy, which is like a set of labels that has already been defined, we went into the data to see what was coming out and developed labels for the data specifically, right? And we did this for each use case. So if you look at the image on the right, you see all of these individual labels that we started picking up, right? So you've got accurate, you've got out of scope, you've got guiding. And so from a total set of 503 data points, we found that 80% of the LLM responses were accurate. But the remaining 20% were falling into a broad set of errors, right? So the first majority error that we were seeing was out of scope, which is that users were asking questions that were not within the knowledge base or the RAG of the tool, and the LLM was responding to these answers, right? And then the second kind of majority error that we were seeing was language error, which is that we were working in a context where users were typing both in English, Hindi, and Romanized Hindi, but the bot was not detecting this and it was responding in English, right? So as we saw these things emerge, we started categorizing these labels into broader, themes of, okay, we're seeing emergence of, PII exposure, we're seeing like vague and unhelpful responses. So, what's kind of happening with this specific tool? So that takes us to the third step, which is that as we're developing this annotation and we're, looking through our sample, the sample actually gets bigger, which is that so I'm going to talk through this example of the chatbot on the right in a second. While going through the data, you will notice things that appear to be edge cases, and you can use that to then run a targeted keyword search, which will make your sample richer and also show you whether this is an edge case or something that's actually showing up quite a lot, right? So in the educational space, there was a chatbot where a lot of users were asking this question of, what do you know about me? And the bot had been given some information about the users beforehand, but we suddenly noticed that at one point it had started mentioning caste category. And immediately, we were like, okay, this seems like personally identifiable information. So then we went in and did a keyword search for caste and different terms for different caste categories, and we found that, okay, this is actually showing up a lot. And so we saw that PII was being exposed in a way different to just phone numbers and addresses, right? And so we had caught this nuance that we hadn't picked up on by just looking for names, phone numbers, and addresses. So moving forward, you then get to step 4, which is your analysis, right? So you can do so many things while analyzing. So what are some top, priorities to pay attention to? The first one is to look at what is your most frequently repeated query from the users. And then how the bot is actually responding to this. Is it consistent? Is it giving the same, level of depth in all of its responses? Second is to look at tone of queries and tone of LLM's response, right? Third, with possible exposure of PII, this is just something you always want to do a check on. Is personally identifiable information coming through? And finally, you have to be prepared for edge case queries, right? Things you didn't expect. Maybe somebody is suddenly asking, something that's in a gray zone between being within scope or not being within scope. And an example of this is on the right. So in the reproductive healthcare context of one of the bots, we saw that almost 50 to 60% of user queries involved questions around nutrition, and the bot was providing detailed responses. It appeared to be in scope. We didn't really clock this. We just labeled it as, okay, one type of query. When we went back to the client, we found out that this was actually not part of their knowledge base, and they didn't want the bot to be responding to questions around nutrition. And so it's really important to do this, as Edmund mentioned, like cyclical, going back to users, going back to stakeholders, and figuring out what's within scope, what's outside, what's risky, what's not. So this is our 4-step method. Some things to keep in mind when you're setting up your own evaluation is always begin with some clear objectives. Sit down with your team, figure out what you're measuring and why. Then you want to have some tooling in place so that your evaluation is, easy and successful, right? Something that we noticed was that in one of the use cases, when we received the kind of data set of input-output queries, there was no conversational ID to follow the conversational flow. And so that actually made it really hard to figure out whether the output was relevant to the input. And we had to do quite a bit of cleaning to, data cleaning to get to that information. Finally, you want to record all of your annotations. Whatever definitions you're using for your labels, whatever definitions you're using for the errors and risks that are emerging, this will become your customized annotation guide that you can then use for subsequent evaluations, right? So finally, we're leaving you with like a quick checklist. Obviously, a lot more can happen in this, but day one, you want to start with a random sample of inputs and outputs. Make sure this covers like time, depth, and breadth of topics. You want to check for consistency across different types of queries. In the Indian context, you really want to look at language consistency, and you always want to screen for PII exposure. Over time, as you develop more sophisticated annotation guides, you'll have more customized, and targeted evaluations. You can scale up to involve the community. Do some focus groups, show them samples from your data and say, hey, like, does this work for you? What do you want? How do you want the LLM to respond? And then you want to develop this into a longitudinal tracking system, keeping in mind what Edmund had shared, right? Which is that at various points you want to go back in, maybe take a 0.2, 0.5% of your sample and do another targeted evaluation. And so we do think that, you should combine human and automated evaluations, especially as an organization grows and, develops the capacity to have somebody doing automated evaluations, but always come back, step in, and check your data yourself. Thank you. Open to questions. Yes.
You're talking about labels, sensitive labels, right? So are you putting a layer on the responsible AI? Suppose I have a platform where I can use your annotation model to do the responsible AI, like my model will be restricted towards those labels, annotations.
So that's what I'm saying, that you can develop your own labels, right? So you can choose an option where you take labels from someone else. That's fine. There are like sets of evaluation labels out there that you can use. But we recommend that you develop something that's customized for your tool, because you know what your audience needs best.
But these days we are moving towards the agentic, right? The open clock, and so there they are using thinking models in the back end. So will that be restricting that too when we say we are keeping this annotation layer on the top?
So I feel like that's a combination of automated evaluation, and what I'm talking about is a purely sort of human review, right? So in our case, you're just getting a data set from the LLM, and then you're going through it, versus letting another LLM do the labeling, if that makes sense, right? So this is a human researcher looking at each entry and labeling it.
Clearing the boundaries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to invite Purva to come and speak. Did I get the order? Yeah. So Purva, please, over to you.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Purva. I head engineering at Noura Health. And let me start this talk by saying that something surprising that came to mind, that healthcare doesn't happen in hospitals. Healthcare happens at home. And here I'm going to actually talk about how we are evaluating our AI agentic flow to serve our patients and family caregivers. I'll start by stating a stat here. Today, the doctors do not have more than 5 minutes to actually sit down with patients and discuss their condition, medication, post-surgery or post-discharge summary. In absence of this, there is a lot of confusion, and basically caregivers do not know how to take care of their loved ones at home. This is the problem Noura Health is trying to solve. Our mission is simple. We are trying to engage with government and public healthcare systems to make caregiving training as a standard practice. How do we do it, and how well we have done it? We have impacted about 50 million people in 4 countries, running in 11 different languages, building these materials. We train the nurses at the hospitals. We meet our patients where they are, and then basically make sure that at the critical moment where care moves from hospitals to home, we are there to support our patients. There is another stat that 70% of children death under 5 years of age is preventable. These are not complex interventions that were needed. These were simple caregiving practices like looking out for warning signs, feeding practices, going to a healthcare facility at the right time that could have saved these deaths. And that is our mission, that we basically help out our patients and caregivers at the right time. So let me actually tell you how we have scaled it digitally. On digital side, these are the images of our program that are running in the hospitals. And let me talk about how we are scaling it digitally. Our patients can actually reach out to us through WhatsApp platform. They can ask us questions. We also have IVRS-based calling system. They can call us at any time or message us and receive our response, from them. When we started this platform about 3 years ago, we started to receive a lot of questions. And basically, when we started scaling, we started receiving about 10,000 questions a day. We have served about 2 million users so far in the last 3 years, and we are operating in 11 languages. But you can imagine, like our team of 30 nurses and doctors were overwhelmed. These were questions, that were basically supervision needed. And our nurses, to scale our nurses, we thought about using AI. But we didn't want to throw AI at it. We wanted to actually build evaluation from the day one. So what did we do? I'm going to introduce, this was the problem, and especially in caregiving, when we identify a warning sign, but the responses do not come till late. And initially our response time, the turnaround time was 10 hours. It means that the caregiving window where a simple intervention could have saved a life was gone already. So that's how we thought about our digital offering, through AI. When the user query comes in, we have an intent recognition. We filter out the messages that are like hello, health condition update, thank yous, and all that. And that use of AI to just eliminate those messages saved us, 80% of our bandwidth, nurse bandwidth. The second AI module that we built was Emergency Checker. Here, we identified the warning signs that are, that need actually help, like seeing yellow tinge on skin on a newborn, or after a cardiac surgery, heavy breathing, in an old patient. So we identified those markers, and then also made sure that those particular cases get prioritized on top of nurses' view. So this tool does that. For medical response generator, we have a user profile. So through the use of AI, we are collating all the information that we know of this particular patient and the family, and we try to respond through the use of AI, looking at the knowledge base that we have created. So there is no medical advice, that is out of the curated list of questions. There is no hallucination. If our module doesn't know the answer, it just says, hey nurse, take over, answer this question. And behind the scenes, we actually look at the traces and try to build that knowledge base accurately. The fourth and the very critical point, where our nurses actually review these different AI modules, their outputs, and then sends the answer back to the user. So you can imagine how critical these AI modules are. But nurses here decide. AI drafts, but nurses remain in the full control of this process. Edmund actually walked us through the evaluation framework that they have built, and here is how we have operationalized it. For model evaluation, the numbers that you see on the screen are our precision and recall metrics. For intent recognition, it is 98%. We are using cross-validation on the label data set. For emergency detection, it is 98. For emergency detection, we are doing a manual review. Our doctors and nurses review these traces and then get us validate the responses to us. Similarly, for summary and retrieval accuracy, it is at 90 to 95%. For response generation, we have used a rubric where we are looking at medical accuracy, context awareness, and communication quality. How well this response is being served, whether it is going to lead to any behavior change at all or not. But you can imagine, even a 1 to 2% error rate can be disastrous. It can mean that one missed emergency can lead to a preventable death. So behind the scenes, we are tracing all these responses and making sure that our doctors are meeting on a weekly basis, and then we are actually putting a feedback loop there so that the next time, this particular condition gets identified. So it's a work in progress. For product evaluation, we are looking at markers like what is the turnaround time. We have seen an improvement of 36% in Bangladesh and 21% in Indonesia. I think I flipped the stats there. It is 36% in Indonesia and 21% in Bangladesh, which is a huge saving. We have reduced 80% of the messages, like I mentioned, just through the use of intent recognition. We are identifying 10% of our messages as emergency messages, which means that we are taking care of these emergency cases right when we actually receive those messages, which is a big win in itself. And our nurses are accepting 95% of the AI drafted responses. It is, of course, improving. We have deployed this in 4 countries right now, and 20 nurses are actively using this product. So we are actually collecting their experience, their feedbacks, and then behind the scenes, again, making changes to the models and the product overall. All right. Our theory of change for user and impact evaluation is, if an AI-enabled platform accurately identifies high-risk cases and triggers them for MSE responses, and MSEs deliver timely personalized information to families, then families implement essential care practices and seek care on time, leading to reduced complications, neonatal and infant morbidity and mortality. We are using this theory change for user and impact analysis. So for user evaluation, we are looking at how many queries a caregiver is asking, especially when we have answered a question for them. Like, are they engaging with us more? So that's one factor. Both the user and impact evaluation phases are the hardest. They ask the hard questions, and they take the most time. Model and product are, they are like continuous cycles, but these are the phases that actually validate whether it is going to lead to any outcome or not. So for user evaluation, it is the engagement rate, how nurses are feeling about the responses, what is their feedback like. For impact analysis, we are running an RCT in Q3 of this year to wait for the neonatal mortality. We will be running it for a year or so, and then we'll monitor the behavior changes. How is it leading to actually better caregiving practices in the field? So that's how we are thinking about it. But very quickly, I wanted to just share the key learnings here, that for AI, and especially evaluation, it needs to be built in from day one. It needs to have all the strong foundations, because it is non-negotiable, especially in a setting like healthcare. Track everything, learn fast. We must track all the responses, take feedback, learn from it, and then put it back into the system. Cultural and local context do matter a lot. So basically, in urban Dhaka, basically a caregiving practice could look very different from rural Nepal. So just keeping all those things in mind, how are we designing our models? It's very important. Scale and evaluation with your product, and real innovation, responsible AI at scale is important, and because, in the healthcare system, these are critical learnings. That's all I have for you. And if you're interested in the demo, and any questions, please scan the QR code, and you'll reach the sorry,
We
yes.
can't take questions right now. Sorry, give us 10 minutes. We'll eat into other speakers' time.
Okay.
So can you please
Okay.
catch Tuba later? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Happy to meet you all later.
Yeah, sorry
Yeah.
about the
Sorry.
hard cut.
Thank
I
you.
don't wanna
Yeah,
affect
catch you
other
later.
speakers. Yeah, please catch Tuba. Okay.
Great. So that was a fantastic first demo from healthcare. Now I'm going to call Vinod to speak about Tech for Dev's work and the platform that they are building, the CAPI platform that they are building. Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, folks. I'm Vinod with Project Tech for Dev. What I'm going to talk about is kind of building up on what Edmund was talking about. We believe in the similar frameworks of model, product, user towards outcomes. For us, in terms of enabling, and not sure if I got the name right, but Gayatri Mkaria asked, like, how do we get people to do this? And that was like a big question. And for us, that's super important at Tech for Dev, is to say, how easy can I make evaluations? Today, it's easy. You go on a chatbot platform. You go to any platforms to create a knowledge base and to create a prompt, super easy. Now you ask your questions, you fire away at it, right? That everybody can do a lot, very, very easy. But what we don't do, or what is difficult is the evaluation part. And the notion is, how do we make that simpler? Was our big question, rather than trying to think about like going into the depth and detail of evaluation. Because what we've also seen with a lot of nonprofits, and nonprofits are very varied. We've got like Nura, Digital Green, who are probably at the top end of the chain, who have significant engineering teams and can work doing evaluations at much, much greater scale than what a smaller organization can do. But as we enable all organizations, we want them to think of evaluations first. If you are running a chatbot with AI, you should be thinking of evaluation because that's super important. You can't just say, I'm running my AI chatbot, it spews out answers. We don't know what it's going to actually say, and I don't even know how accurate it is. So those are the questions we wanted to answer. We want to make it easier, and that's fundamentally from our belief of saying, enable the entire sector as such. And so from that perspective, we've been building an infrastructure platform, and you'll see the demo for that later. So we look at AI valves in kind of two ways. One is when you actually start using it as a model, can I just tell how good is my prompts, how are they working? Can I get that easy enough? First thing. Then you've got it in production. Can I now look at traces and see if somebody has a human level, and I think Barish talked about like, oh, you should always evaluate a few percent of your traces. How easy can I do that? Can a human go in and check and say, hey, this works, this doesn't work? And then the model also looks at some of those things. So that's the second part of it. And the third part of it, I think in terms of evaluations, one of the other things that we really want to look at is what most people would call as guardrails, but we also look at it as runtime evals is how I would call it. So you can do small amount of evaluations during runtime when the questions are being asked. And these could be small things as like topic relevance. It could be content relevance. Usually for most people, if you ask them, they do a post-priority analysis. But you could also do it during your prompts itself, small bits and pieces, and be able to evaluate. And that, again, it stops the bot from even proceeding further, which is always a good thing to do if you're not getting there, rather than saying, oh, I'll take responses 2 months later and evaluate everything fully. So those are some of the big things that we have been working on. We've been working on these runtime evals actually with the Tattle group, and these are on detecting different things that we are slowly building on. Could be topic relevance, could be how do we block slurs, how much are people actually having toxicity of language, and these become not just something that's done as a research 2 months later and we're going to build in. Can you do that from day one? Can you push those in and keep building on them? And that's the notion for us in how we are looking at our platforms and how we develop it. I'm going to run this quick. Happy to answer questions. We have like around three. So for us, when we start out with evals, you always want a golden set of questions and answers that once you've created your prompt, you want to be able to generate that. Our idea is, given a knowledge base, AI can generate that, first thing. The users can then go in and adapt that, change it. That's one point. The second point is you also want to have multiple categories of golden set of questions. And this is something that I know that Purva and team have done, Vineet have done, to say, is it a knowledge base? Is it a knowledge check? Is it a procedural check? Or is it safety? Or is it something that the AI model should never answer? So all of these you build into it, right? And that's something that you can do day one. So you're going to put an AI model and you're going to even do a pilot. It's also important for you to then think about, how do I set up these questions? And then run a very quick analysis, and you'll see that. The other thing that I wanted to point to here is, in India especially, you would have noticed, you've seen, this one was for a policy bot happening in Himachal and Haryana. What you would have noticed is, you would have seen English, you would have seen Hindi, you would have seen Hinglish, so many combinations. If you're not going to test for all of these combinations, you're really going to find out later that it doesn't work for some combination, for sure. And that's also the other part of it, is that when you design this, you're going to have to be thinking a bit about it. So this is kind of a demo of the actual platform and what's happening, where you're able to select, add in this simple set of golden set of questions, and given a particular configuration of whatever you're using for your AI assistant, it's going to be immediately be able to run an analysis and tell you how close are you getting. And this is not complicated. So this is one simple metric, which is a cosine similarity. How similar are my answers to what the user thinks it should be? And you'll see that in terms of some of these questions, some of these answers. The other one that we also do is use another LLM to judge, is the performance good? And these two simple metrics we feel are great starting points for most NGOs. What you would have noticed with Purva stuff is there was a lot more metrics, and it's great. That would be a step that you take further along the road. But for an NGO starting out on AI, how do I get there? Simple enough, keep it simple to one or two metrics, build. As you get more and more, you've got more scale, then take it further along where you're really evaluating your models. So this allows you, for example, here to see some of the responses from the AI very quickly. What is it missing out? What is it not doing? So this also allows you to go quickly and adapt your prompt, because that's also the other question that lots of people have. What do I do now? Okay, I've got this thing. It's given me a score of 0.6, 0.7. What does it mean for somebody who's not so technically savvy? What do I do with it? So to be able to enable that to say, hey, this is why what's missed out. Maybe it's a problem with your knowledge base. Your knowledge base doesn't have good data. Maybe it's a problem with your prompt. How do I adapt that? Or maybe it is that instead of using an OpenAI GPT model, you have to use a Gemini model, and that would be better. Could be any one of those combinations, but it allows you to test it very quickly to be able to do it. And this is kind of our approach to AI evals and how we are looking at it, to do these golden set of questions and answers. Run that fast, run that for any organization that uses AI. The other part that we are working on is how do we set up these runtime guardrails and evals all the time. The combination of these two we feel like is a good start for organizations. And as they build more on AI, build more scale, we expect them to go towards what Purva and Vineet talked about for Digital Green and Neura Health. Thank you.
Vinod, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm RK from Mobile Crutches. Like I heard her also, and you are also speaking that the data you are going for testing and you have certain evaluations you do. Just wanted to know that when we are doing the testing and evaluation, how the AI model unlearns itself from the errors, because errors we are getting, is it doing that, and how we are going forward with that?
Okay. So there's multiple different ways. We don't do it as anything as part of the platform in terms of unlearning, right? And I can give you a very brief example actually of like one thing that had happened in one of the organizations that I work with. This organization works in the health sphere, and they work with maternal and child health, and one of their main things is to promote for institutional delivery. But the knowledge bases that we were using are from the ASHA workers manual. And if you have seen a ASHA workers health manual, they'll talk all about home delivery. So there is a lot of disconnect when you say about like between what is wrong, and it could be any one of different things, right? It could be that your prompt's not working well. It could be that your knowledge base is actually not like greatly accurate. So in our case, we actually had to pull out every single material that talks about home-based delivery, because that's not what we wanted the bot to be able to give that information to the people living in the urban slums in Mumbai. So that is important. And then in unlearning also, one of the other things that is done, we are not doing it, and I've seen it done, and maybe even Vineet can talk a bit more about it in detail. I know they do a lot more of the fancier work, is that you also have more of restricting your questions and creating your FAQs and using that as your first part, where you are funneling now 70–80% of your queries into your FAQ itself and rather not to your general LLM. So that way you have actually reduced the amount of errors that you're actually going to see.
I think we have to catch you afterwards. Sure. We have about 10 minutes for Vineet to come and give his comments. So we've heard from health, we've heard from Tech for Dev, and now we're going to see a agriculture tech non-profit talk about their evaluations.
Thank you. Always a tough task, but I think it has been made easier by everyone covering a lot of stuff here. Okay, so yeah, why evaluation matters. So just a brief about Digital Green. We have been working for last. Am I audible? Yeah. We have been working for last 18 years in the field of strengthening agriculture extension and advisory, our flagship product. Farmer Chat has 2 weeks back hit 1 million users in 15 plus languages across India and North Africa. So, sorry. Okay. Why evaluation matters? Okay. This was an old slide. Okay. So, okay. So, okay. Why evaluation matters? Short. We need a heading. Now, the reason is, as I think Edmund, Vinod, Purva, Barish have covered, there are various aspects and perspectives. The user needs, user demands performance in terms of whether the response is correct, whether they can understand it. As we are serving the smallholder farmers, we have to serve in multimodal, multilingual kind of a way, where they also have difficulty in articulating the question. So it has to be multi-turn. And then stakeholder needs about you need to have what are the topics, what are the causality, what is the directionality, like where are we moving, what are the different segments of the users and what works and what not. And then obviously the technical part of how good it is performing in various languages, various modules, and obviously the responsible AI gender aspects, whether it is giving any toxic or bias, and we want to probably do some sort of a stress test using red teaming. So this is one internal tool that we have created, which is called evaluate.farmerchat. Essentially all the queries that are there, there's enormous pipeline which first finds out what are the unique questions out of around 10 million queries that have been asked. And on this particular web tool, there are different agriculture experts who actually sit and they go through each and every response that was given, and they can mark it out which segment is wrong, incorrect, or irrelevant, and they can also add any missing information, and then they can give some general comment and give a rating. Now, as I said, we need to know our heading and where we want to go. So we have done close to around 22,000 different question answer pairs in India alone, and this is what happens when you are able to fine tune. So this is a question about how can soil health be improved for better GD yields. Now this is a response from the existing pipeline where it gives something which is good, but now what we are getting is much more specific, and what these highlighted sections are also through a LLM as judge, where it is able to find out what do we mean by specificity, that it is talking about a specific quantity based on location, timing, and what it would benefit. So actionability in terms of the practical advice that we are giving to the farmers is extremely important, and these are the kind of improvements that we could achieve. So I think there's some sort of a prop at the top, but this so what we have done is essentially you take the ground truth golden answers, and then we can extract the facts that are stated. So if I have any kind of a text, I can take out what are the facts that are stated in this, and I can use that with what the model is predicting. And what we are seeing in green is what we are able to do in terms of what we mean by fact recall is how what is the overlap with the the golden answers that we have created. So this is an example of, and it's sort of important to understand that it's not AI evaluation, LLM as judge, or human evaluation. It's a combination of both. You need human annotators or human evaluation in the first go, and then use it to particularly scale it up and actually get your LLM as judge to be accurate enough to actually give all these evaluations at scale. This is for the crops that are important as per the gender, and that is an important aspect in agriculture and for digital green. For those particular specific crops, we could see a 3 to 3.5x improvement. Now, moving on to this is an example of this was an example of end-to-end evaluation of a question asked and the answer given. But what you need, and as I think Purva had shown the entire pipeline, so typically it's any application using AI is not just one LLM call or AI thing. It has multiple modules. We recently, the next upgrade of PharmaChat has rich image cards that the farmers can actually, when they see it, they can understand what the context is. Now this is an example. I don't know whether this is visible or not. But essentially this is an image card that is shared. So there are multiple these kind of modules, modular evaluation in-house, where the person has actually, our team has actually marked it wrong, because the question is about what is the planting distance between avocado, and what is it showing is not reflecting the 7 meter or something of that sort, which is much higher when you're talking about avocado trees. Then when we are talking about the the module level kind of evaluation, the speech is important. This is one of the benchmarking papers that we have just recently published, where we could get what are the kind of errors that are happening and benchmark different speech to text models. And one of the things that comes out of it is what are the specific, so the tree map of what are the specific domain specific terms where the model is going wrong. Now this is a important input in terms of what is the further data collection that needs to happen. So if I think everyone understands Hindi, so common thing like someone is asking about gehu and it takes it as gaon. So what is the problem in my gehu is wheat, what is the problem in my village? And I would answer something very different, right? So so we could use, so we took around 100 hours of audio samples and got it transcribed, ground truth, and what a person would understand, and then used LLM to actually come up with these classifications. This is one of the recent work that we have done with the agency fund with Edmund on further going down to the model performance. So this is like actionable. What is the level of question or the level of response? What level of complexity is there? Does it need a person to be an expert reader or intermediate or basic? Then we have gone further into whether there are questions that are being asked which are violating any kind of a usage policies. We took the usage policies of different what is there, it is also evolving, and use it to create a prompt and use it as an LLM as judge to come up with this the score and classification. Lastly, this is a recent the survey, in-app survey that we have done for the user evaluations, and the in-app surveys have a low click-through rate, but we were able to give it to the monthly active users. And the important part is that the survey has to be very crisp, short. So the question was, did you apply the advice from PharmaChat in last 30 days? And overwhelmingly, we saw that 70% of the respondents said yes. And what are the kind of areas that they have done? Yeah, with that, I would.
Now, a minute for anyone has questions for me. We have time for one. So my question is that, as we see in Mura Health's example and your example, evaluations are extremely customized and related to the product. So you have different kind of rubrics, but not just rubric, different logics as well. So in that scenario, would you expect your team to build evaluation system in-house, or do you plan to use it and product evaluation platform to do it, such as TechFunnels?
So yeah, so I would say that there are certain frameworks that you can definitely use. So in fact, one of the things that we have published this entire fact extraction kind of a thing, which is I think can be applied in medical or education or any other legal or any other domain. But the thing is, like, you can have those frameworks. So we have a Python package, a pip install. You can just use that Python package and use it. But then the prompt itself and the model needs to be tried out on your own data. So it's kind of, you have those frameworks, you have those, there are certain libraries. This data, everything of the papers that we are publishing is available in open domain. but that is a reference. I would say if someone has to do it on a different domain, obviously the errors and the entire methodology would, the exact details would be different.
So thanks everyone. We didn't have too much time. We had 55 minutes to cover a lot of content, but all the speakers will be outside, so do catch them and continue the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.